And we'll get you all the polling news today. Voting for the second phase of elections in 39 seats in Assam and 30 in West Bengal is taking place. This amid very, very tight security. The big one is Nandigram. All eyes are on the Nandigram seat, where Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee is taking on her former loyalist and adversary, Suvendu Adhikari of the BJP. There have also been several complaints already in Bengal on certain polling booths, and complaints filed by the Trinamool, in fact, listed out by them poll booth by poll booth about various actions. In some places, they're saying the candidate wasn't able to reach the polling booth, that polling agents aren't being allowed in, that the CRPF has been roughing up some of the people. So several complaints. Suvendu Adhikari has already cast his vote. He arrived at his polling booth earlier today and cast his vote. And when asked by the media, he spoke about how people should vote for development in the area. Well, let's go across to Monideepa now for more. And Monideepa, what are the reports coming in so far? There have been several complaints made by the Trinamool of certain actions at the polling booths.
That's right. In multiple booths in Nandigram, that's what the Trinamool is complaining. There have been issues like an EVM malfunction, the machine hasn't been changed, or some alleged BJP workers have been preventing polling agents from going in, or, Trinamool people are being heckled. So innumerable complaints of this coming in. But I must say that we've just been going to some of the booths. There may have been a brief spell of a problem, but in many places that has been sorted out. But not all. Nandigram certainly tense, no question about that. Not that you would know, looking at where I am right now, a huge number of people have queued up here in booth number 11, and all the COVID procedures are going on. If the camera could turn the other way around, temperatures are being checked, sanitizer is being distributed, so on the surface, everything looks routine. But no question, this is a special election for the people of Nandigram. Who do they have as candidate? Suvendu Adhikari, their former MLA, who is now with a different party, and the Chief Minister of the state. So it's a big thing. Let me ask this gentleman over here how he feels this time's election is different. Dada, आपका नाम क्या है?
रंजीत माइती।
तो रंजीत जी, आप यहीं के रहने वाले हैं?
यहीं का रहने वाला हूँ।
तो आप बताएं कि इस बार इलेक्शन कुछ अलग सा है ना?
अलग सा है, पर
एकदम मुख्यमंत्री
का जबरदस्त टक्कर है यहाँ पे।
हाँ, कैसे आप बताइए थोड़ा। एक तरफ
बड़ा
नेता
है।
हाँ, तो ऐसे हालत में वोट देना सोच
समझ के देना।
अरे बाप रे, तो आप क्या चीज को सर में लेके आप वोट
प्रोग्रेस हो।
ओके, डेवलपमेंट चाहते हैं ये भाई साहब, और ये जो महिलाएं हैं ऐसे सज धज के, दे हैव कम ओवर हियर ऑल ड्रेस्ड अप टू कास्ट देयर ভোট। দিদি, কে বলবেন এবার আপনাদের তো বড় বড় সব নেতারা এখানটায় লড়ছে, খুব শক্ত না ডিসাইড করা কে কাকে ভোট দেব?
কাকে ভোট দেই?
হ্যাঁ, কিন্তু আগে তো কোনোদিন মুখ্যমন্ত্রী এসে লড়েনি এখানটায়।
সেটাই হচ্ছে কথা। তো
হ্যাঁ, এটা আপনি কি বলবেন?
আমরা সবাইকে ভোট দেব, সবাই সঙ্গে থাকবো, কাছে সবার কাছে
সবাই একসঙ্গে।
হ্যাঁ।
আচ্ছা, ভয় লাগছে কি এবারে একটু
গন্ডগোল হতে পারে? ভয়ের কিছু আছে? আমরা পুলিশ প্রশাসন আছে, তারা তার নির্বাচন করবে, আমরা ভয় করবো কেন? কিসের জন্য ভয় করবো?
জানি না, সবাই বলছে এইবার নন্দীগ্রামে একেবারে
হাড্ডাহাড্ডি হচ্ছে। তো হচ্ছে? হ্যাঁ।
তাই নাকি?
হ্যাঁ।
আর হাড্ডাহাড্ডি হলে ভয় লাগে না? কি ঝামেলা হবে?
না, ঝামেলা হবে না।
ওকে, very brave women over here. They say, of course, it is a hadda-haddi ladai, which in exact translation means the clash of bones. But they are not worried. There are reports of tension here and there, but all queued up, all dressed up to cast their vote today. Back to you.
All right, Moni, thanks so much for joining us. With that, we'll return to you for more updates. Let's now go across to NDTV's Ratnadeep. And remember, Assam 2 is voting in this second phase of elections. Ratnadeep reports from Silchar. There has been rainfall overnight, but that hasn't affected the people coming in and lining up to cast their votes. There are 4 ministers and a deputy speaker who are among the candidates today in 39 of the state's 126 seats.
That's right. In fact, we are coming to you from Silchar, the main town in Barak Valley region, and it has been raining very heavily since last night. But this morning you can see, despite heavy rains, turn up is good at the polling station. We are coming to you from a polling station at Tarapur in Silchar, one of the prime localities, and you can see here senior citizens have queued up. Early morning, this just goes to show the excitement among people for the elections here. Remember, these 39 seats are very crucial. This is going to be a test for Congress and its allies, because in the first phase elections in the 47 seats, largely it was Congress which fought the BJP and the AGP combined. But in this phase, where among the 39 seats, you have 15 seats in Barak Valley region, the Bengali heartland. You also have the two hill districts, the tribal districts of Dima Hasao and Karbi Anglong going to polls, and parts of central Assam, particularly Nagaon, Hojai. These are the areas which are known as the cradle for the BJP. So BJP's hardcore, hardcore politics, hardcore Hindutva agenda on test today. Also, this is the first time that Congress and its allies, particularly in Barak Valley, you have pockets where the AIUDF is very strong. So they will be their alliance will be put to test. Now, in the last elections in Barak Valley region, which has always seen polls getting polarized on religious line, out of 15 seats, 8 have gone to the BJP. The AIUDF had won 5 and the Congress could manage only 2. But this time, with the alliance between the AIUDF and Congress, rather the Congress and AIUDF being the main two parties in the Mahajot, they have emerged as a challenger to the BJP in its stronghold of Barak Valley. And you can see behind me, this queue just goes to show the excitement among people. Despite heavy rains, there have been very heavy rains since last night, but people have turned out in large numbers. You can see elderly people, senior citizens actually leading from the front.
All right, Ratnadeep reporting from Silchar in Assam. But let's turn our focus back on Bengal, where the second phase of elections is taking place. We're now joined by Smita Gupta, senior journalist, Tausif Ahmed Khan, political analyst and advocate, and also someone who supports the Trinamool, and Shoaib Danial, senior assistant editor of The Scroll. Now, Smita Gupta, first you finally, this very, very bitterly fought election. The Nandigram seat is being viewed as the epicenter of this entire fight. Of course, we have 6 more phases of elections to go in Bengal. Already several complaints are pouring in by the Trinamool of, certain issues that are emerging at polling booths, from the CRPF manhandling people. That's one of the complaints they've put in. Also, that polling agents aren't being allowed in.
Yes, actually, one of the key issues in this West Bengal election has been the role of the Election Commission. In fact, former senior officials of the Election Commission who I spoke to have expressed their great discomfort with the way the Election Commission has been, if you like to use the word partisan in this election. For instance, not allowing local police within 100 meters of the booth. In any case, West Bengal elections historically have been violent. There have always been problems. But this time, I think the role of the Election Commission has really been quite suspect. The only thing is that because there's been so much violence in the past, nobody takes the Trinamool's complaints that seriously, which is unfortunate. And today, as you mentioned, is the battle for Nandigram. Nandigram has great symbolic value, as we all know, because that is where Mamata Banerjee began her right to power, by opposing the land acquisition that was promoted by the former left front government. And she is also in contest with her former lieutenant, Suvendu Adhikari, who along with his other family members played a big role in this Midnapur district area.
Right. Tausif Ahmed Khan, your reaction to these reports of trouble, and as Smita was saying, it's being said that, oh, this always happens in Bengal, there's always trouble, there's always complaint, there's always been violence. It has this legacy of violence during elections. There's nothing new. Earlier it was, the left, Congress, then it was the Trinamool, and now Trinamool versus BJP.
This time around, something new is happening, something new which Election Commission has allowed, and that is the election poll agents from other constituencies are being allowed to, come and sit. And this is especially on the demand of BJP. And after the first phase of elections was over, after the reports of EVM malfunctioning came to surface, Trinamool leaders went to the Election Commission and asked them to change this new system that the Election Commission has come up with. Generally what has been the practice is the people who are from the constituency where vote is being conducted, where poll booths are, would sit in those poll booths. But Election Commission, on the request of BJP, has changed the rule and has allowed people who are not necessarily from that constituency or from that polling area to come and sit in the poll booth. And secondly, as was just pointed out, the local policemen are also not present. Now, despite these issues, BJP, maybe banking on the Subhendu Adhikari factor, but this Subhendu Adhikari factor is nothing when it comes to Mamata Banerjee factor, because the entire, as we have seen, the vote share, as I can see on the screen as you are showing, there is huge number of women voters. And these women voters are, majority of them are going to vote for Mamata Banerjee, because, this is the, it's been a long time there has been any women candidate from Nandigram. Perhaps, if I'm not wrong, this is the first time Chief Minister, as a women candidate, is contesting from Nandigram. And this will appeal to the female voters. So BJP, Trinamool is, very positive of the outcome of the result in the second phase, and especially in Nandigram, Chief Minister is going to win with a thumping majority, is what
we'll have to wait
Trinamool
for
is
the
expecting.
2nd of May for that. Shoaib Danial, when Mamata Banerjee announced she'll only be contesting from Nandigram, it was quite a statement that she made, that she sees no risk to herself. Some even described it as foolhardy, given that the Adhikaris are very, very powerful, very, very influential. That entire family is very influential in this area.
Yeah, Gargi, this was actually vintage Mamata. This is Mamata taking what seemed like, or what projected as a spur of the moment decision, which was actually quite risky. I think whatever the statements the Trinamool puts out, I think everybody, even within the Trinamool, realizes that it's a tough fight. As a woman voter just told Monadeepa, it's a hadda-haddi lorai. So this is a tough fight. So that's one thing. So obviously the risk Mamata has taken. But it's also, in a way, it's a calculated risk, because it's done two things. One is it's enthused the Trinamool cadre that, they're generally leading from the front. She's, taking bullets right up at the front of the ranks. That's number one. Number two, it's actually stemmed what could have been a huge exodus from that region after Subhendu Adhikari left, which has not happened because Mamata came down and fought from there. So, in a way, the two things are linked. The fact that the BJP is depending on this massive central presence of paramilitary troops shows that actually the organization of the TMC, by and large, has not gone with Mr. Adhikari and has stuck with the original faction of the party. And that is why these paramilitary troops are being brought in to sort of counteract the Trinamool's organizational advantage on the ground.
All right, Smita Gupta, one of the interesting, factors in this entire election has been this, insider-outsider debate. While the Trinamool tried to, blame the BJP or call out the outsider factor of the BJP in West Bengal, in Nandigram, it was Mamata Banerjee who faced this insider-outsider issue with Subhendu Adhikari calling her an outsider in this constituency.
Yes, Mamata Banerjee has had a tough time in Nandigram. You can see the number of days she has spent, because a lot is at stake here. As Shoaib just pointed out, she took the risk, that is typical of Mamata, to take such a risk, to lead from the front, because it kind of enthuses her cadres. But we saw her recite the Chondi part here to prove that she was a better Hindu, more in tune with Bengali Hindus. This is where she had her unfortunate accident. She has spent a great deal of time to prove, and she has also, I think, emphasized the fact, her association with the Nandigram agitation, which she led from the front. I mean, of course, there were local leaders like Shubhendu Adhikari and his family members, but she led from the front. But in Bengal as a whole, this outsider versus insider battle will be very interesting to watch, because while a lot of us, I'm a Bengali too, would like to believe in Bengali exceptionalism, that, there is a tradition of, social reformers, Bidya Raja Ram Mohan Roy, cultural icons like Rabindranath Tagore, and so on. But there is also the wounds left over from partition. And that is where the BJP has tried to, BJP has, I would say, to a great extent in many parts of rural Bengal, has succeeded in sort of bringing alive those old wounds. And in a way, you will see that the cries of Jai Shri Ram and Bajrang Bali and all, you'll see them in rural Bengal also, It is, it's not that it's only the land of Kali, Saraswati, Durga anymore. You'll see this in Bengali serials today, where Bajrang Bali pujas and all are very much part of the landscape. So it means it's part of popular culture. So this election will tell us a little more about how all this will pan out.
Absolutely. And Tausif, Mamta just 2 days ago admitted that she indeed made that call that was made to a former Trinamool member who had joined the BJP. That call was leaked out, had been shared, quite extensively online. And the BJP had tried to say that this just shows how weak she is in Nandigram, that she's actually beseeching a former party member to come back and how he refused.
On the contrary, it shows how aggressive and how confident she is in her campaign.
All right.
Someone must have told her, being and every candidate or in each constituency is supposed to reach out to the voters. And especially when someone who has been the former party member and who must be waiting for a phone call from his party supremo, there was no harm for Mamata Banerjee to reach out to her and ask him. Someone must have advised Mamata Banerjee that he is waiting for a phone call. If you could make a phone call to him, he would come back and he would vote for you. And there was nothing wrong in Mamata Banerjee to reach out to the voter in her constituency and to seek votes. That is the part and parcel of the democratic process.
Right, well, that's one way of looking at it. Of course, there were then another call that got leaked out as well, and it was like, leak call versus leak call. Shoaib Daniel, what's been interesting is just on the eve of the election today in Nandigram, you had Mamata Banerjee actually writing to several opposition leaders, to Sonia Gandhi as well, and she's asked everyone to come together to take on the BJP.
Yeah, that was a bit. I'm personally not sure what to make of that, given what is happening in West Bengal, where
it seems she's already thinking ahead in a sense. She's on the eve of the biggest election of her life in a sense, with Shubhendu Adhikari and the might of the BJP, and here she's already writing, in the long term, wanting the opposition to come together.
I mean, it's a bit inexplicable, because if you look at the situation in West Bengal, one of her fiercest critics is actually Adhir Chaudhary, the state president of the Congress. So it's a bit inexplicable. It's one of those Mamata doozers that we'll sort of be unpacking for the next few months.
Right, Smita?
Well, I think she should have done this at the outset of the election, ahead of the elections. She should have pointed out how important the results of the West Bengal elections will be, not just for the state, but for the entire country. Because if you look at the states that are north of the Vindhyas in this country, the BJP has been either in power or is in power in virtually every state. I don't think there is any other state. It is West Bengal alone. Even in perhaps Odisha, but Odisha also, I think it's been an alliance partner. But in Bengal was the one state, and it's a state that sends 42 members of parliament. So it's a big state. So she should have made this appeal right at the beginning. She should have maybe talked to Sharad Pawar and made sure that the Congress and the left, they should have fought together, because even for the Congress and the left, whatever the stakes in Bengal, nationally they claim they are opposed to the BJP.
Right,
So
but a
I
very
think this has
different
come a
picture,
little
you know,
late.
in the state, as Shoaib was just pointing out. Tausif, final word from you on this?
Actually.
No, indeed, Bengal's election is very important because this is about politics entering into a new era. Will the regional parties lose their importance, or will the regional parties still have role to play in national politics? This is where we are heading, and we have seen, many regional parties are still holding their grounds. But should India decide to have a unitary form of government, should India decide to have a one party or two party, it would be proper to call two party. Basically, are we heading to a one party rule? Because the constitution provides us to has given us a multi-party democracy, and for which regional parties have to exist and have to perform well. And this campaign, we have heard a lot about this insider and outsider. This is something not new in Indian election campaign. We have seen when Bihar went to poll, this was the same tactic adopted by the BJP alliance, where Nitish Kumar was calling other party as Bahari and himself to be Bihari. So if Mamata Banerjee is adopting today the same line, to keep the regional party relevant in the Indian politics, there is nothing wrong.
All right, well, we'll leave it there. Thank you all for joining me today on the show as Bengal goes in for the second phase of elections. 30 seats polling taking place right now, and the big one, that's Nandigram, which is really being seen as the epicenter of this battle for Bengal, where Mamata Banerjee is taking on Suvendu Adhikari. Polling is taking place. Trinamool has made several complaints about polling stations where there has been violence, where they've accused the CRPF of not allowing in polling agents.